Hello and welcome to the Work for Change podcast. I'm your host, Jean spelled like Jean.
Wow, he's very excited about this episode. And my name is John with the silent H. Thank you so much for joining us for episode number 65 of the Work for Change podcast.
That's the co-host over there giving great.
No, it's the main host. I let you do the intros because you never talk regardless. So.
Yep. Yeah. No, totally. So excited about this episode. But before we get into that,
imagine if we introed the episode like, this one's horrible, you guys. We're not excited about this one at all.
No.
That wouldn't be good.
Yeah, that would be bad. That would probably not blow over well with the guests. Be like a good friend.
It's Sam.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have my wife on here again.
Again, guys. We couldn't get a guest again.
All right, so something that we wanted to do that we have not done in quite some time is talk about the reviews. You guys, we used to talk about them quite a bit, but you guys actually left reviews, even though we haven't been talking about them. But if you do listen to this on iTunes, we would love for you guys to leave a review. You don't have to write a comment or anything like that. Obviously, we love to see them, and I'm going to read one right now. But if you just want to leave a review, obviously 5 stars helps us a lot. We're getting close to 1,000, which is just a cool number to have.
Yeah, and honestly, it helps us out because before I had any podcasts that I listened to, the way I found podcasts I listened to was I went through the top podcasts. And I was like, that one sounds interesting.
Well, and I would read the reviews.
Yeah. And so what reviewing a podcast does is it just gets us higher up in the rankings so that if someone else is just kind of scrolling through, they'll find our podcast. Hopefully they're intrigued by it and they want to do it. So it would help us out immensely.
So this review is from Deli Marie. I hope I said that right. But it says, this is by far my favorite podcast to listen to. Thank you very much. Every week, John and John post such informational podcasts, but what I love about them is that the episodes are created with such a uniquely lighthearted and humorous feeling to it. John and John work so well together, and their banter makes it enjoyable to listen to. I tune in every week for their new episodes. So thank you very much for leaving that very nice review. And I agree. I think that where our podcast shines is the fact that we don't try and act like we know everything and we're super hardcore. We just like to have fun with it, man.
Yeah, and I think banter is code word for arguments.
Yeah.
And we're not afraid to argue with each other because we're brothers.
Yeah.
People have also said that they like it because, maybe they have an estranged relationship with their brother, and it's like
it reminds them of their relationship.
Yeah, it reminds them of their really bad relationship with their brother.
It's true. Yeah, I actually don't like you at all.
No.
Funny thing.
We
you
fight
guys,
right before, and then we hit record, and we're like, no, I'm just kidding. That's actually not.
Funny thing is that
true.
We don't. So that actually, that's not true because we actually don't talk at all unless we're in the podcast.
Well, we don't want to ruin any content.
I haven't seen Jean.
We actually used to be great friends, and then we started the podcast.
This podcast has ruined everything.
I don't want to say something, later in the week that would have been good for the podcast.
What's even crazier is that if Sam's on the podcast, John doesn't talk to her at all. He just all I hear is wait for the content. I hear him in the room all the time.
Yeah, she'll say something and I'll be like, no spoilers.
Yeah. We can't spoil it for everyone else at home.
Can't spoil it. Yeah,
it's worked really well for John because he doesn't like talking to her. He told me in confidence.
That is not true. We don't talk in confidence. We talk on the podcast.
That's true. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
So also, if you guys haven't left a review, or if you have left a review, awesome. The next step is to follow us on Instagram.
Yeah.
At Work for Change Podcast. We'd love if you guys followed us over there and just commented on our pictures and our random stories. It's kind of like more behind the scenes of us not talking to each other.
Yeah. All right. So tell them about what this episode's about. We should probably get into that at some point.
We will. I just want to let you guys know for the next couple weeks on the podcast, you're going to hear me talking about the CrossFit Level 1 because I finally made the decision to do it. It's something that I've wanted to do probably since I found out about it. I make a joke that I walk into my first CrossFit gym and I asked the coach, all right, what does it take to get me to regionals? It's like, all right, sir, you got some things to learn first.
Slow down there, Turbo.
Yeah, not with those cleans.
Still.
Yeah. But wanting to expand and grow in the sport of fitness, of working out fast, has been since I started doing it, it's cool that there's a path to continue on. But I never saw myself as a coach until I started thinking what is a coach? Well, a coach isn't at our gym, they kind of are, but like they're not the best athlete in the gym. We have some great athletes who are coaches at our gym, but it's someone who just wants to see the people around them improve, and to see good movement and to see people having a good time, and I'm really passionate about that, and I really care about that. So I finally made the decision to pursue the very first baby steps of becoming a coach, which is taking the level 1. I'm going to be taking it on February 8th and 9th. So if you guys could send your prayers, send your good vibes that way.
Yeah, because it'd be really awkward if we talked about it a lot and you failed miserably.
That is a major fear. Like, legitimately, I keep on like, because like, talking to people at the gym, I'm like, yeah, I really want to do this, blah, blah. I'm like, but assuming I pass, like everything is like this big, like I actually feel a lot of, not anxiety, but pressure. Like I want to do well. And so anyway, I'm going to be doing that. But one of the reasons I'm really excited about having this is our gym is starting. Now we're getting into the episode. Our gym is starting something for the month of February called the 800 gram challenge. We will get deeper into it about what it means, but we interview kind of the creator of the 800 gram challenge. Her name is Synkowski. And she basically has this premise that if you eat 800 grams of fruit and vegetables, and it's not like grams.
You're not eating dried fruit and stuff like that. It doesn't count.
It's like fruits and vegetables, and it's the weight. So it's not like how many grams of carbs it has or anything like that. It's like the weight, literally the weight, 800 grams. Just include that into your diet, and she believes that there will be drastic health improvements. And so our gym is doing that. We are taking part of this challenge for February, and I thought, what greater guest to have to start this off for our gym, and also for everyone else who's listening, to kind of get her perspective on diet and restriction and whatever. So I really feel like this episode was awesome.
She's also more than just this, right? Like you were talking about, she's a level 4 certified. So what does that mean, right? Because we talked about it a lot. We talk about it a lot in the episode, but if someone doesn't know anything about CrossFit, like level 4, what is that?
It's kind of like the unicorn of the CrossFit coaches. There's not a lot of them.
Yeah. That's why it's so impressive.
Yeah, I think if CrossFit level 1 is the base, I think level 4 is like 1% or something, like less than 1%. Like I don't know, I made that number up, but it's like you get the idea, you get the feel of that it's like it's an honor, it's a prestigious honor to be. And you know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
You not only know what you're talking about, but you have to earn it through coaching. You can't just like study your way up.
And you're teaching other people to learn those things, right?
Exactly.
So it's a very cool fact that we were able to get her on the podcast and have that wealth of knowledge to be able to share with you guys. And it was a fun episode. I'm excited for you guys to listen to it.
She will include her links in the description of the podcast and on YouTube. What's up, YouTube? And also she's got like on her website, she's got links where you can find her TED Talk. You can download her ebooks. You can learn about this yourself if you want to be a part of the challenge. It's not just like a gym challenge thing. But without further ado, let's get into this episode 65 of the Work for Change podcast.
Well, let's just hear, like, what is the 800 gram challenge for someone that's like, what are you talking about? Like, I have no idea what this is.
Fine,
right.
Yeah, we can do that too.
Yeah, so the 800 gram challenge is to eat 800 grams by weight of fruits and vegetables each day, which right there is a little bit different because a lot of times when people hear about quantities, they start thinking calories and macronutrients, but no, this is the total weight of the item you're eating. And then it's any fruits and veggies you want to hit that 800 grams, and you can weigh it cooked, canned, frozen, or fresh, and you continue to eat whatever else you want in the diet. And so that's kind of getting at your point, Jean, that, there are no restrictions.
Yeah, and like when you talk to someone who, we were talking about this before, like when you talk to someone who is keto, you go, oh, well, what is keto? Oh, well, I don't really eat a lot of carbs. I eat, or whatever. Or someone who's vegetarian. Oh, what's vegetarian? Well, I don't eat meat. Like the first answer is what you don't eat. Mm-hmm. Whereas what the 800 gram challenge is like, well, I'm aiming to eat 800 grams. It's a totally different like answer to dieting. And I know that you, that's like a very purposeful thing, like not focusing on restriction, but enhancing, if you will, or elevating your food, your diet.
Yeah. And I mean, some of that, I've coached for a long period of time. I've coached CrossFit for a long period of time. I've worked with people on their nutrition for a long period of time. And so, yeah, it kind of came from that experience, right? Like, how do you get sustainability and buy-in? And typically it's not by telling people not to eat what they want to eat. You know,
True.
you find what people can do. And it's the same thing with CrossFit too. Like if somebody doesn't have a pull-up, you don't go, well, you can't come here.
Yeah.
You find what they can do and you start working where they can work, right? So it's sort of that same sort of idea. And it's really to promote sustainability. Now I can make the diet more restrictive and at times we might have to, but for a first step, it really is not a place to start with in terms of restrictions.
Okay, so now that we've kind of introduced this, can you tell us a little bit about your fitness background, and then also your connection with CrossFit? I mean, you were there for a very long time, and then also just because I'm totally curious, your process to being level 4 CrossFit, because I in 1 week and 1 day am finally going in for my level 1.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, you are a million light years ahead of me, but just a little bit about the process of getting there. But before we get there, your like fitness journey and background.
Sure. Just grew up super into sports, from Maryland. So lacrosse was my big one. But then in college kind of pursued academics over sports, but always had the gym, kind of the gym rat mentality is just sort of, you know, where to go every day and relieve stress. And I actually worked in an unrelated field for a while. After my first master's, I was working in environmental consulting. But my brother stumbled into the CrossFit.com website. And he was like, you got to check this out. And so this was back in 2005.
Whoa.
And so January 2nd, 2006, I showed up at CrossFit Boston for my first workout. Wow. So very early on in the community. And then I started working on seminar staff that same year because CrossFit was different back then. I transitioned to a full-time position with them around 2011. So teaching on seminar staff from 2006 to 2017 and working full-time for them for 2011 to 2017. So lots of experience there, writing their curriculum, training the trainers, all of that stuff behind the scenes, admin work, et cetera. And then started my own company about 2 years ago. So that's what I'm doing now. Level 4 process. Well, I think it's either live or soon to be live. What had happened was in the old days, you had to do a performance-based test for your level 2. So you had to go in, and this is 2008, I did my level 2. You had to go in and teach in front of them, and they would kind of give you a pass-fail, and there was a terrible pass-fail rate. Very bad. And what they realized is that people were going from their level 1 to their level 2 too quickly. And so I also was part of that for years, but helping revamp that system to now make the level 2, which is today, put in the level 3 test, which I helped, kind of author and get out. And then the level 4 is now going to be the performance-based test, which is kind of the old level 2. So trying to make this somewhat brief is that, essentially had the old credential, and anybody who had that old test, if they passed the level 3, they're grandfathered to the level 4.
Okay, very cool.
But I think it's live or soon to be live. I don't actually know the exact status of it because I'm not there.
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast recently, and I think they're talking about it's very soon. The new level 4 is like revamping or something, or maybe live now. But it was very soon.
The whole thing and why it's pretty cool and why it's also a difficult thing to do, especially if you're talking about like making it standard and legit, is a performance-based test is very hard. So how do you make that performance-based test the same, whether or not John shows up in San Diego or Detroit? And like, what does that look like and how do you score? So I think, at least when I was there, that was some of the challenges for sure. And so it's been a while for them to develop it.
Were you as into nutrition, or not into nutrition, but like did you have a focus on nutrition while you were at CrossFit? Or was it more just kind of like what they needed as seminar staff role related?
Yeah, it definitely was more heavily on operations. I mean, our team was expanding so fast, translations, getting the programs accredited, all that stuff. But I still had a niche within nutrition, partially because of my background. I had, a biochem engineering degree and also a first master's, and then I continued on to a second master's in nutrition. So there was some of just general background. But I would say that my overwhelming percentage of time where I had to spend my time was not nutrition. Yeah.
So what was the catalyst that made you want to go full in nutrition?
Yeah. To be honest, we had to do continuing education requirements under CrossFit, under their accreditation program. Our admin staff had to do continuing ed. And I ended up just starting a master's degree as my continuing ed. But I was sort of like,
No big deal.
No big deal. But I went into it kind of with the mentality of like, I can just do what I want, right? And then of course I ended up liking it and finishing the degree. And I was like, you know what? Let me see what I can do with this. So my new company started.
What I think is cool, like with nutrition and what I've seen, is that I really feel like, and I think I'm definitely biased to this, but I really feel like you can change people's lives much faster and much more dramatically when you help with their nutrition. So a little bit about like my backstory. I don't know how much you know, but I used to be 360 pounds. I lost a lot of weight, and most of that was through nutrition and understanding, what calories are and how to track and understanding that stuff. And that truly saved my life. And fitness to me has been a huge add-on, and I'm very, very thankful for it. But something that I say, and a lot of the people that follow me and follow the podcast are maybe like trying to lose weight. So I always say that weight loss happens in the kitchen and fitness happens in the gym. A lot of people seem to think that, I'll just go to the gym and I'll work harder and then I'll lose weight. And I think a big reason why that's been perpetuated is, shows like The Biggest Loser or infomercials back in the day. I remember I used to be up at 2 a.m. and watching these random workout things, and they're like, Katie lost 50 pounds by doing this exercise thing. And at the very end, it would say, and she followed the diet, plan. And so I think for a lot of people, they got stuck in the same rut I did, which was look at these workouts, do this, do that. And then you don't really focus on the nutrition. But when someone finally understands and they flip that switch of like, nutrition is the most important thing compared like for almost anything, but especially for like weight loss, it helps someone understand, and like they can actually make steps. And then if you're helping someone with that, you can just see that flip switch. And once they start taking it seriously, you see the pounds start shedding off, or the movement starts getting better because they are losing the weight. So I think that it's really interesting that you kind of went from the movement side of things, and then kind of switched over to nutrition. So do you feel like you saw that same kind of transition as well, like being like, oh wow, I'm helping people with nutrition, and people are almost more thankful, or they're seeing all these changes much faster, or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I'm not totally sure why the switch, because to be honest, I think fitness has a huge component as well, right? You're going to see the best results when you do both of them.
Of course.
Of course, right? So I think there's a big component there. I think one of the things though, it was sort of like spending all this time in the gym and seeing people not make progress. Mm-hmm. And it was like, okay, we really got to address both of these. And you're already doing one really well, and you're also showing that you really want to be proactive and working hard. We just have missed the boat a little bit on the other important step. And so I guess it was a little bit of that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So here we are, 800-gram challenge. How did that, where did this come from? 800-gram challenge, fruits and vegetables, and then just being totally willy-nilly, freedom in the other areas. Like, where did this idea kind of form in your mind?
Yeah, so it was actually during my second year of my last master's. So it was like summer of 2017, I guess. I was playing with a couple different diet ideas of this idea without restriction. Like, how can I measure quality in the diet, but without necessarily restricting things? And I was playing around with like tracking potassium. I was doing this other diet where I had this list of like 12 things to eat every day, all this stuff. And I happened to come across a study that looked at fruit and vegetable consumption relative to health outcomes at that time. And of course, they found that the 800-gram number was a pretty cool cutoff. They found decreased cardiovascular risk, stroke risk, cancer risk, and mortality, which is what we ultimately care about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I was like, that's interesting. What is 800 grams? And so then I just started playing with it. Like, what does that volume look like? And what are the macronutrients? And let's say that I told someone to eat 800 grams. Would I allow tofu to count, and olives, and all the other questions you get with this stuff? And so I played with it for a while. I played with it for a long time so that I could understand it and understand all those questions I just asked. And then I, of course, had a friend try it. And I joke around about this, but it was true. I'm 6 feet tall and I'm like 180 pounds. So I wanted to try it out with somebody who wasn't my size, and all of that stuff. So yeah, it was probably about 5-ish full months of playing around with it before I kind of launched it publicly as a challenge with CrossFit Roots here in Boulder, and then have built products for other gyms like yours to be able to run it as well.
That's super cool. So I watched your recent TEDx talk. Very cool, very entertaining.
Thanks.
And one of the things you said I really enjoyed. I don't have as crazy of a transformation as him. He lost 160 pounds, 180 at a certain point. I was like 30 pounds, 40 pounds. But it was enough for me to really gain some confidence in who I was. The way I did it was I looked on YouTube, and the way everyone told me to do it was to track my macros. And so I tracked my macros, not religiously, but pretty close to it. And I think after a while, I was like burnt out on tracking macros, and I was so over worrying, like some of the stuff, like worrying about going out to eat, and this menu's isn't on MyFitnessPal, so I have to guess based on another one. But how do I know that this person's chocolate chip cookie is the same as this person's chocolate chip cookie, or more likely it was pizza?
Of course, that's the food that you're trying to figure out.
And so I eventually just got like super burnt out, and then even on other times, like later on, when I wanted to track again, I just had all these memories of like hating tracking, that I would just like avoid it like the plague. And I do know like people also have this tendency to where they like they make tracking macros the most important thing in their life.
Well, yeah, like I fell into that whole, I guess I don't want to call it a trap, because it was definitely a means to an end for me. So a few years ago, right before I started CrossFit, I actually did a men's physique show, and I got down to my lowest weight, which was 180 pounds. So I currently walk around at like 210 pounds. So I was like 30 pounds lighter than I am now. And to do that, for me, tracking macros was a means to an end. Like I understood that while I was tracking, I was like, this is not something I want to do for the rest of my life. But it was definitely a very helpful tool to get as lean as I possibly could. Like for me with tracking macros, I'm not sure how much we agree on this, me and John, but like I think that it's important personally for someone to at least understand what macros are and how to track them, because I feel like if you do, like you track them for a little bit, and once you do that for a little bit, I don't think that you should be like, I'm going to be 70 years old and tracking macros. Like, no, I don't think that should be your goal. Yeah. Let me make this bigger. But like, I think that it is a helpful thing. But with anything, and especially with nutrition, I've noticed that anything can become unhealthy. So it's like if you fall in a rabbit hole of tracking and then it becomes this obsession, that's obviously an issue. And so it is like, it's one of those things that I don't think it's one size fits all. Nutrition is definitely not like that for people. But I have seen macros, they can help people and work really well, but they can also be, kind of dangerous if you let your macros like become a religion almost in your head,
right.
And it's like, I can't go off these or else everything's going to blow up. Is that kind of...
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I actually use macro. I kind of have a different phase nutrition approach for clients and stuff like that. And I definitely like macros at a certain point for the very reasons that you've mentioned. You learned a ton about food. You very quickly realize that it's not the kale or the carrots in your diet that are the problem. You learn the chocolate chip cookies and the pizza. And that's really the value. But until you actually put the numbers in and see the points go up or down or however you're tracking it, you never really come to that conclusion. So that's huge. But yeah, at the end of the day, like, no, my goal for people isn't to track either. And I also think there's a large percentage of people in the United States and world who will never weigh and measure their food. And guess what? We can still do a lot of good things without having to worry about that. And so that's some of my voice too with the 800 gram challenge. It's like, fine, you don't want to weigh and measure, I can still help you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and something that I really like about the 800 gram challenge, for me, normally when I hear challenge and nutrition, I'm like, nah, nope. Like because like what I do now is help other people lose weight, and I've been around for a while, and I've seen so many challenges that I'm like, that is so damaging to your relationship with food in the long run. Like, yes, you will be able to lose 30 pounds very fast, but what do you do once you're done? That's and you use the word, it's my favorite word in the whole world, sustainability. Like, if it is not sustainable, I'm sorry, but you're wasting your time. Like, I understand, I get pretty passionate about this stuff, but it's like, I understand that you're seeing results and it's very cool and it's very exciting and you're very happy about it. And you think right now, you can do this forever, but I'm telling you that honeymoon phase will fade away, and you'll eventually be like, I'm sick of doing whatever it is, whatever challenge it is that I'm doing, and you fall off the wagon per se, and now you've gained all the weight back, and you're mortified, you're upset with yourself, you feel like you're a failure. And so like I understand that this is like a big grandiose thing when it comes to challenges, but like I've seen it really mess some people up. So when I heard that the gym was doing like a nutrition challenge, I was like, oh gosh, like I understand the reasoning. I understand it's always from a good place, right? Like the coaches want to help people lose weight because, you know, for the vast majority of people at the gym that want to do a nutrition challenge, most of the time it's I want to lose a couple pounds, right? Mm-hmm. And so I understand why coaches like to do that in CrossFit gyms or whatever. But like this one, and we've already kind of touched on it, is it's not about restriction. That's not what it's about. It's about adding things. And I think that, I mean, I might be putting words in your mouth, so if I'm wrong, you know. But like when you're eating 800 grams of fruits and vegetables, it being in a deficit kind of naturally happens. Not for everybody, everyone's different, but it's a lot easier because you're eating these foods that are high volume. You know, there's hopefully you're eating some stuff that has some fiber in it that's going to make you feel full. And so it's like I'm in a deficit and I don't have to track all of these foods. And it's not, I'm not always thinking, what can I not have? I can't have that. I can't have that. It's like, no, I need to have 50 grams of broccoli with this meal if I want to hit my 800 grams.
Totally. Yeah, it's definitely, that's some of the magic behind it, is it just pushes out the higher caloric items when you have that type of volume, for sure. And yeah, I hear you on the challenge thing. Like what's funny is people, I think I've heard it a couple times of people like, oh, I did the 800 gram challenge. I'm like, well, so what are you eating now? Not fruits and vegetables. like it was never designed to be this thing like, oh, I did it for 30 days and now I'm done. It was meant to be this idea of like, it's a daily challenge that you can kind of use indefinitely. And of course, you know, I've been doing it for over 2 years, and yeah, not every day has been perfect, but it's kind of like a really easy guideline that I use for a long period of time. And so I admit that I don't love the word challenge, but I did want to imply that you have to put effort towards it and stuff like that. And,
well, it's
and
like
all that stuff.
Anything like that, there's always words that it's like, oh, I wish I didn't have to use that, right? Like for me, diet is that word. Like I'm going on a diet. Like I don't like that word, but it explains what you're talking about without having to sit here and be like, well, I don't actually like diet. Let me sit here for 15 minutes and explain what it really is, you know?
Right.
So yeah, I get exactly what you mean there. Yeah.
All right, so we're taking a break from this conversation with EC to tell you a little bit about this week's sponsor. This week's sponsor is our good friends over at WOD Prep. Yes, we've had Ben from WOD Prep on the podcast a couple of times now, and we're really excited to announce this partnership. We've got a special deal for Work for Change listeners, so listen up. If you email Ben at WOD Prep and mention the secret password in the subject line, the secret password is Chipotle is my life. Come on, you knew it had to be that. So email Ben, make the subject Chipotle is my life, and what we'll do is we'll give you buy one, get one free on any WOD Prep course. What's a WOD Prep course? Well, it's a simple 8-week course that takes you through a specific skill or progression that you want to learn. Do you want to learn double unders? Do you want to learn muscle ups? Do you want to learn toes to bar, kipping? Whatever it is, we have an 8-week course that helps you develop the specific skill to get that movement. And here's the best part. All of WOD Prep's courses come with a 100% money-back guarantee, which means you have nothing to lose. You're going to buy one course, you're going to get another course free. You have a 100% money-back guarantee. If you take the course and you don't feel like you've improved at all, you didn't get what you wanted, you can get all of your money back. And the only way to get around to doing this is by emailing ben@wodprep.com. Again, that's ben@wodprep.com, and mention in the subject line, Chipotle is my life. I'm really excited to see you guys hit those new PRs, get those new skills. Be sure to tag us in it at Work for Change Podcast when you get them. We'll be sure to promote them on our page. And again, really excited about it. Now back to this episode with EC. There was one thing you talked about in the TED Talk that I enjoyed. You actually, you brought up the 30 days, and it's like, and then what happens on day 31? And then what was it, like a skull and crossbones you had on the screen? Yeah.
I'm just gonna eat ice cream for the rest of my life.
Yeah. But there was another thing you talked about that I thought was really, I feel like a lot of people miss. You said the quantity of food is your weight, but it's the quality of food that is your health. Can you dig a little bit further into that?
Yeah, and here's where that's not 100% accurate.
Okay.
No, it is accurate, but like as John has experienced, quantity also affects your health. So if you have a significant amount of weight to lose, and let's say that you're eating McDonald's and you happen to cut down just on the amount of McDonald's you eat and you lose 50 pounds, that still has health benefits. Even though the quality of your food isn't good, there is a effect of quantity on your health. But then to take that a step further and to optimize it, the quality of your food in terms of micronutrient density, phytochemicals, fiber, all of those good things, that really is what is most health protective from anti-inflammatories, from antioxidants, from modulating your immune system via the fiber and gut microbiota. So there's all these things that happen when we have those types of nutrients or compounds in our food besides just quantity. And so with CrossFit, especially, we think about weight loss, we think about looking good in our bathing suits or whatever, and we think about macros tracking for performance, but then it's like, and then we need all these other things though too if we want to have this long-term success.
I think two things that makes me think of. One, not coming from severely overweight, I forget that for some people it is literally just try cutting soda, or just try not going to McDonald's 3 days, or like how a change like that can have such a huge impact.
That's the beauty of like massive weight loss that I say is like when someone's like, I only have 30 pounds to lose. I'm like, I hate when people say it like that. Cause it's like,
those are the hard pounds.
That's gonna be hard. Like there's no, the honeymoon phase of I lost 20 pounds and I barely did anything. Like it's not gonna happen if you only have 30 pounds to lose. But if you have 200 pounds to lose, the first 20 pounds, man, you could almost do nothing and see that happen. And like, I know that from experience. Like I used to drink a 2 liter of soda every day. Cut that out only and drink diet soda if you want to. You're going to lose 20 pounds. And you're like, oh my gosh. So when people are like, I only have this, I'm like, you got the hard pounds to lose. All right.
Yeah. And I think the reason why it spoke to me is because again, I'm not against macros. I'm just over them for myself. But
they just hurt my feelings. That's all.
But you kind of get lost in the like, well, I'll just have this protein shake, get my protein, and then I'll have like whatever I want.
I can fit a Pop-Tart in this.
And so I think the quality of food for me, that's more where it resonates, is like recognizing, okay, like maybe there's something more than just how far to the line can I take it of like, this is kind of questionable. People, when I eat this, go, you work out? Like that reaction I get out of people. And then like you mentioned before, like, what we do is we eat all these like nutrient devoid foods, and then we have to like, but I also have to take this supplement and this supplement and this supplement to get all these things, where it's like, if you just ate your fruits and vegetables, it would be providing it for you.
Yeah, it would also be getting at the goal that most people want, which is weight loss, right? So that's the thing people ask all the time about supplements or greens and all that stuff. It's like, well, then you're not full when you have the supplements or the greens, and then you still want to lose weight. So why don't we just eat the salad and do both the things? But I mean, that's one of the things about diets, and one of the things when I was coming up with the 800-gram challenge, I wanted as few rules as possible, because inevitably the brain works in this way. It's like, okay, well, I'm still doing the diet, but I'm eating the Pop-Tart to hit my macros, or I'm eating. And so we come up with these really weird ways to keep eating the crap that we're supposed to be cutting out. And so I was like, well, let's just take that off the table. Now, there are some ways you can still game the 800-gram challenge.
That's what I was gonna ask. I was like, I know that people are messaging you like, can I drink wine? And
well, of course, but that's a no, because it's not a fruit and vegetable. But things like if you were to weigh something raw and eat it cooked, you get more credit for weight that you didn't eat, or like pickles count. But of course, like a diet of just a jar of pickles every day is ideal. So it's like things like that where it's like, guys, I mean, come on. But getting back to your point, it was like, I didn't want all these infrastructure, all these rules, because basically that's what we all try to get around with like keto cereal and paleo muffins and whatever. It's like, just have the muffin and then have fruits and vegetables. It's like, keep it real easy.
And so you also, I was looking on your website, and you have is it? I don't know if it's the next step, but then you have something called lazy macros.
Right.
Can you explain that?
Yeah. So, 800-gram challenge is fruits and vegetables. So, of course, the next question, especially for kind of people in the CrossFit community or athletic space, is, well, what about protein? And so I consider that sort of the next step is, we should add a protein target to this. But the still idea is, okay, you're going to hit a certain amount of protein every day in addition to your fruits and vegetables, and then you're not weighing and measuring everything else. You're not restricting anything else. Now, of course, just like 800-gram challenge does, by now adding also protein, we're also keeping probably the ice cream, cookies, chips in line. Mm-hmm. So that's why I call it lazy macros, because there is a certain amount of quantity control. If you're hitting a certain amount of fruit and vegetables and a certain amount of protein, I'm going to guess that you don't have enough room for, a 6-pack or pick your whatever, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's sort of the idea. It's kind of the next step. It's certainly not as strict as macros. You might not get the 6-pack or the bodybuilding show or aesthetics show or whatever it is, physique. But it is kind of one next step layer that I think most people benefit from.
And I know you have all the resources on your website, but if someone, let's say someone at the gym really enjoys, let's just say they enjoy eating fruit and vegetables, okay? Mm-hmm. Let's just assume. And
the reason John's saying that is because he cannot fathom someone that would enjoy that.
I've actually been getting better. I used to eat so many carbs. So every meal had so many carbs.
Tell her the story
about not sugar.
About you throwing things away in the trash.
I don't know that story. What are you talking
about? His wife is so sweet, and she'll cook him these amazing meals, right? With rice and chicken and broccoli and vegetables. And what do you do when you have some broccoli?
Sometimes I'm not in the mood for broccoli and I throw it away. And then
throws it in the trash.
And then what happens is the people at my work video me doing it and send it to my wife. And so I have never done that again.
Now he does it in the bathroom to make sure no one can see him.
I have not done that again.
Do you know if you're even close to 800 grams, or have you started playing with it yet?
I have not started playing with it yet, but I'm ramping up.
He's building his courage right now, and he's
no. So here's why. In my mind, veggies and fruit will not fill me up as much as carbs, rice,
starches, and stuff like that.
Correct. I mean, generally.
Mm-hmm. I've realized it's just a different feeling of full, but it's not like I'm not hungry. It's not like I'm starving after an hour after a salad.
Do you think part of it's because you're afraid of being hungry?
Oh yeah, I hate being hungry.
Well, because Jean is and I'm the same way, so I'm not trying to put you on blast, but when we get hangry, we're bad. I get very quiet and very I don't talk very much. Jean gets very argumentative when he's hungry.
But
do you think you're just trying to avoid that is why?
Yeah, because I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that diva. But like I'm saying, so it used to be breakfast sandwich, homemade though, but still breakfast sandwich. And then it would be a protein bar, around 10. Mm-hmm. And then it would be 150 grams of rice with my lunch. And then it would be probably nachos at 3. And then whatever we had for dinner,
or
which
Chipotle.
was... Yeah, or Chipotle, which is I ask for extra rice, or whatever we have for dinner that I make sure that... So many carbs. And I was having this, this was my day, energy-wise.
Yeah.
And so I've been, trying to, figure out, I don't want to be that. I want to be more of a steady rider and not, a roller coaster. And I think a lot of it is the amount of carbs I'm eating, I'm just spiking my system and it's going crazy and it's trying to process it. And then my body's crashing. And that's what I call hangry. And so I'm well, the only way to cure this is to eat more carbs. So then I start eating more. And so this past couple weeks, I actually have been severely limiting the amount of carbs I put in my diet. Not because carbs are evil, but because I want to not have that roller coaster.
Yeah.
And so for lunches or for breakfasts, I've been doing Greek yogurt with some fruit, blueberries, strawberries, bananas. For lunches, instead of putting rice, I've been putting salad. And I have not been nearly as roller coaster. I have, and I'm not hungry. And when I am hungry, I'm not agitated.
Do you think that part of
it's been very interesting?
Do you think that part of it's because you started noticing it with Sam? So Sam is his wife, and she's type 1.
Type 1 diabetic.
And so do you think that you've been seeing her, that she has to deal with her insulin and all that stuff, that you feel I feel like I'm doing this And she was obviously doing that, and then she had a real issue where she had to go to the hospital and like figure it out.
I would love to hear your thoughts on this as well. I think I was trying to learn what the best diet and fitness nutrition regimen was for her. And when I was reading about what insulin does in the system, I'm like, oh, that actually kind of sounds familiar. Maybe I should look into this. And so it was legit just an experiment on myself, but I feel so much better. And I think it is like, I would love to hear real truth on that instead of my random thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, there was a bunch of points, I think, with that. But one of the things, of course, with the 800-gram challenge, and I think John already said this, was that you actually do feel full because the volume of food that you're eating is a lot. So you physically are filling up your stomach, but it just happens at a lower caloric cost. So, if you were to compare a cookie versus the amount of carrots or apple you could do for that same number of calories, you're going to get a lot more. And so you actually do feel full on this, which is one of the nice things. But in terms of, if you're just eating a lot of sugar all the time, you're going to kind of have some of that hormonal response. But there's also, and actually I have the book right next to me, but it's called The Hungry Brain. But you also have kind of this neurochemical signaling that's like, oh, that's a lot of calories. This makes me feel good. So some of it's kind of these emotional ties that we have as well. Like the dopamine release and stuff like that kind of keeps us going back for more. And I think what you're doing is a great way to handle it. And it's actually one of the reasons why I like fasting. And I hate to say that because as soon as you say that, people start doing these extreme ideas, but it's like,
I'm not eating for a week.
I know. It's like working out CrossFit at the end of a 24-hour fast. It's like, no, that's not what I said. That's not what I said. But anyway, but it's this idea like your body and your metabolism is really robust. You can handle going from breakfast all the way to lunch without the mid-morning snack. You can skip breakfast and you're going to be fine. And I think just kind of keep going is a great idea, and to wade through those waters a little bit because your metabolism is really robust. And like, maybe don't pick it the day when you have a big presentation at work, but maybe pick the day that you're working from home and you can be a little hangry and be like, oh wait, I just survived. I had some water. It really wasn't a big deal.
No, I think that's really interesting. And like with the fasting. So something that I've kind of naturally started doing is that, so I'll eat my last meal. I eat pretty late, like I'll eat it at 9 or 10 or whatever. But then I don't eat my first meal until usually about 11. So it's about 12 to 13 hour fast that I have just naturally because my dinner is pretty big. Like it's a good amount of calories. So when I wake up, I'm not hungry at all. I'm not even thinking about food. Do my morning routine and then I'll go to the gym and then normally I'll eat after my workout. And for me, it's been so unbelievably helpful. Like I don't have to think about food. I don't have to think about eating. And part of it was I've always not liked feeling full during a workout. So like part of it was just like I don't want to eat before I work out because then I'm gonna have to wait longer, and it just made more sense to get the gym out of the way in the morning. But I really think that it's been really cool, like seeing fasting get a little bit more popular. Again, there's obviously those extremes that maybe I don't agree with, but I think that it's been good to show people like you don't need to be eating all day. It's okay to not eat for a period of time. Like it's not the end of the world. And again, it was that rhetoric that we heard all heard growing up. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. And it's like, well, maybe for some people it might be, but like for some people, if you eat at really late at night, why do you need to eat at 7 a.m. when you wake up? So I think that intermittent fasting is really helpful for that. But then again, it's like with that, it's like, remember, and this is just me rambling, but like remember, this is an arbitrary number you're putting on yourself. So if you wake up and you're starving, it's okay to have a banana or something like that. It's not like the end of the world. But it is a really interesting thing that I think a lot of people have been looking more into it, as far as like maybe skipping breakfast, not eating so much throughout the day, and even if you're looking at just a caloric way, like not having breakfast, you have more calories for the rest of the day. So it's like, it helps in that way as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's the magic to it. Like people think there's this mythical process going on. It's like, you actually just didn't eat for as many hours as you normally would. That's the magic. The reason why I really don't like it though is like people will jump to that before they have quality and quantity in line. So they're like, well, I fast, but then I eat whatever I want. It's like
that was what I was doing. Just 100%. I thought I was
surprised.
Sold. I was sold that it was like you just fast and you eat whatever you want. I'm like, that's incredible. And so I tried it. It didn't work.
I mean, it doesn't really control quantity or quality, which are the fundamental principles that you kind of already mentioned, John, in my TEDx talk. It's like we have to address those. And so depending on when you eat, that could affect quantity, as John's saying, but I kind of compare it to like, I don't know if this is a good analogy, but like driving from the back seat. Like you might have indirect control over quality and quantity, but you can have better control if you actually focus on those things. So why don't we first get quality and quantity in line? And then if you also want to like skip breakfast so you're not a maniac with your Tupperware, like cool.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. We talked about this before on our podcast, but like we're so obsessed with like the 1% increases or the 1% intervals, and we just completely ignore the 80%. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like if you're in class and you're failing, and you're like, hey, what can I like clean the whiteboards? Will that give me some extra credit? And the teacher's like, yeah, but you can also just like turn in your homework, and that'll totally, you know. And so I feel like nutrition is doing the homework, and then all the other things are like, well, let me clean the whiteboard and let me, you know, sweep the floor. And it's like, I guess that helps, but
there's no shortcuts when it comes to nutrition. When it comes like and I mean, there will always be people marketing them, and there will always be people selling them to people that are willing to buy it. Like 100%, that will always happen. But I always say, like, when I'm trying to help someone and they're asking me about this diet or this product or whatever, I'm like, if it sounds too good to be true, it is.
Yeah.
If it sounds too good to be true, it is. It is. Like when it comes to nutrition, there is no secret. There's no shortcut, because if there was, everyone would be their ideal weight. They'd be shredded. They'd be ripped. They'd be jacked. Whatever they want, right? Obviously, it's not like that, and there's no pill that you can take. There's no secret diet that only a few people know, because if it existed, everyone would be doing it. It wouldn't be just this one guy that has 1,000 followers on Instagram that found the secret, you know?
Totally.
One thing I wanted to ask, and I understand that everyone is going to need a different amount of calories, everyone has different preferences when it comes to eating, but like when it comes to the 800-gram challenge, like how do you kind of implement that in your diet to where you're not like at the end of the night like, crap, I'm gonna eat 800 grams right now, you know? Because I can see that happening for people that aren't the best, planners. That's me.
I know. I actually did a post about that, about like cramming, a bag of carrots at 10 p.m. It's like, guys, that's not the 800-gram challenge. The 800-gram challenge is to like eat fruits and vegetables. Don't do this in the CrossFitter way, right?
As fast as possible.
Or like, 800 grams in a smoothie at like midnight. You're like, oh, geez. Yeah, so it ends up being about 6 cups of non-leafy greens, because leafy greens are very light. So of course they count, but they just don't weigh very much. So it ends up being about 6 cups, which means about 2 cups at every main meal. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what I do. Every time I eat any main meal, it's like, do I have about 2 cups of stuff? And so I don't know. I don't know if it's just I've been doing it for a while, but it's just, I find like it's really manageable. I mean, there are some days where I skip breakfast, and then guess what? You go to Chipotle, you might get a little on the lighter rice side and get all the other veggies, and you're at 400 grams already, you know? Yeah. So it's just sort of like, I'll have plenty of meals which are 400 grams that I don't feel like are that crazy. So for me, it hasn't been a big deal. I think though, for people that are just starting out, to really focus on making sure they put grams in the bank at breakfast is big, because if you miss that kind of first meal, you're going to feel like you're playing catch up the whole day.
Yeah, that makes sense, because especially a lot of people I know, and myself included, a lot of times breakfast there's no vegetables in it, right? Like it's either oatmeal with like protein powder in it and peanut butter, right? That's for me. Or it might be eggs with some toast. Like there's almost never any vegetables. So just like literally thinking I'm going to add some vegetables, or even if you want to do fruits or something like that, you could have 2 apples or an apple and an orange or something like that. Just like getting it started so you're not, again, cramming at the end of the day, because again, that is 100% what I'm going to be doing, I'm sure, a couple times before I figure it all out.
Yes, I'll have to get the updates from you guys.
Yeah. So before we close, I asked on our CrossFit Dark Side members Facebook page if they had any questions. Unfortunately, it's a CrossFit gym, and so it all revolved around poop and wine.
Of course.
Okay.
But
I can tackle both of those.
Yeah. The main question that ended up happening out of it was, what are some of your favorite ways to add veggies into a meal for a husband who doesn't like eating veggies?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my wife asked that, so
that's not a joke either.
I don't know why she asked that.
So first of all, it's like there's got to be something that you like. Like, have you not had sweet potatoes roasted in like coconut oil? Like,
oh no, we had sweet potatoes last night with turkey like a turkey burger, sweet
Yeah.
potatoes, and then we use lettuce as the bun, and it was actually really good.
There you go.
Yeah.
So just start with the things that you like. But then there's always like the leafy green question, like, oh my God, I hate kale. It's like, fine, don't have kale. Maybe put some arugula in the tomato sauce that you're about to use, or a chili, or put chili over top of some greens. Or I really like kind of just doing a marinara sauce with meat and then putting it over zucchini noodles. They taste the exact same. I mean, there's no taste to them. So it's find something that you actually like. Like if you're not really into kale and artichokes, great, we're not using them, at least right now.
Yeah.
And then I also just say roast veggies. I mean, I think they taste like candy after you roast them. So, I mean, try some of that as well. And go with what you like.
Yeah, for me, something that I do almost every night, I put it on my Instagram all the time, is I call it nightly stir fry. And I mean, I put in, like, I just buy frozen vegetables, right? And I put it in a wok, and I do some chicken and then some rice. But, like, the amount of vegetables that I have is a lot, you know? And it probably adds up to maybe, it might be, like, close to like 600 grams. Like, it's a lot. It's a big bowl. And that's like something that it's become so normal. Again, I know it's a lot, but I can eat it. So it's become so normal for me that it's so easy for me to, maybe not 600 grams, maybe like 300 grams, but like it's become such a normal thing for me that I don't even think about it. And it's like, there you go, you know? And again, it's like, it's not like I'm eating that dry. I put sauces on it and make it taste good. You don't have to, like, if you're doing something that you absolutely hate, like the chances of you sticking to it obviously aren't that great. So it's like, find things that you enjoy doing that stick to the plan, and then you're good to go. Like it doesn't have to be this thing that you hate doing, because again, like that's obviously not your goal with the challenge, right? It's like, I want people to enjoy doing this, because if you hate doing it, again, that's not sustainable, and that's kind of the whole point.
And the other thing that I would just say, because you've kind of touched on veggies a few times, is like, you can also have fruit. There's this like weird thing about fruit and sugar, and it's like, oh my God, make it end. But maybe what your dinner ends up being is that you have the steak, and then your dessert is like peaches and a banana. Like, you know what I mean? It's this weird thing of like, no, I only can be healthy if I have kale and Brussels sprouts forever. And it's like, well, not exactly.
No, 100%.
So rather than what you like, and even if it's fruit, 800 grams of fruit's only 135 grams of carbohydrates. And I can assure you that a large percentage of Americans would be way better off if they did that than what they're currently eating.
I actually had a friend of mine. He has an Instagram. It's called Syat Fitness, and he was talking about how. Okay, so he was talking about how people are like, "Oh, you can't eat watermelon because that'll make you fat." And he's like, just take a step back, and say that out loud again. Watermelon makes you fat, really. So you're telling me that if you ate watermelon, that's what made you 50 pounds overweight. It's not the cookies and the pizza and all that. It's the watermelon. Once you say it a couple times, like, okay, maybe that's not what it was.
Totally.
Maybe it's some of the other things. And again, the whole beauty of the challenge is hopefully you're eating so much of these other foods that you're not going and getting a ton of ice cream all the time and all this stuff. So it just helps in that way as well. So
Totally.
So for people who want to look up the 800 gram challenge, look up you, find you, what's the best way to do that?
Pretty easy. Optimize Me Nutrition. That's the website. That's my handle on Instagram. That's where I am on Facebook.
Cool. And we'll make sure that it's all linked in the podcast and everything as well. But
Awesome.
yeah, thank you so much for spending some time and talking with us.
Yeah, thank you guys. And I have to hear how it goes for you.
yeah,
Oh,
we'll let you know.
I'll let you know.
He'll be messaging
I'll
you every day. I need help.
I'll either succeed or I'll die trying.
Okay.
All right. Have a good one.
All right, have a good one.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.